Okay, Trisha. For those who don't know you, what is it about Trisha? How, you know?
So for me, like, I was always the vibrant one when I was growing up. I was always the crazy one, and I was always told to be quiet and calm down all the time. And I was like, I'm strange. Why can't I do that? And then when I got to a certain age and I found my ex-partner now, but at the time it was him, and I was like, okay, this is okay to be like that because he's quiet, I'm loud, and it's quite a nice match together. And we had very similar aspirations, and I've always wanted to have more in my life. Like I was always striving for more and bigger wins in my life, like a better lifestyle and things like that. And with Mark, when I was with Mark, it was very similar. We had such similar interests in regards to building our wealth and building our future together. And so what happened was I was like working for absolutely ridiculous hours in the corporate sector, and I just couldn't bear it anymore. And I got to a point one day where I said, what was I at the time? So this is like, I was probably 29, 30. And I said, is this it for my life? Like, is this all that there is? I'm just going to work forever, 50 plus hours a week. And then I had 2 children at the time. I was pregnant with our third. And I was like, is that all my life is going to consist of? And I still barely can make ends meet, kind of things, to have the lifestyle that I required. And the harder that I worked, so it was like everyone around me was like, work harder, do more, you know, earn more, da 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 da. And I was like, yeah, but then I've still got no time. Because then the harder I worked, yeah, I earned more, but I had no time to utilize that. And then I found property. So like, for me, I was obsessed with like grand designs, Homes Under the Hammer, Vicky Martin. Everyone that watched like Martin on Celebrity Get Me Out Here knows the phrase Vicky Martin. And I was obsessed with these programs, and I was like, I can do this, you know, like I could do this. And Mark actually used to be a builder, so I was like, I am result, we can do this together. But he was like, no, I don't want to do it, you know, it's hard work and I'm already doing building sites, blah blah blah. So then he went into doing different things. He was then in a corporate sector, and he was doing sales and coaching and lots of different things. And we found a program that was about learning how to invest and develop in property. And Mark went to like a little preview session and then was like, you have to come. And I was like, okay. Because I was like, but the problem is, right, at the time, this is in 2016, I was like, we don't have any money spare. So I don't understand how we're supposed to buy this property and make all this extra money, because it's not going to happen, right? Then we went to this program and we learned about how to do it as a business and how to be effective. And that not only did we want to create something out of what we were doing, but at the same time, other people wanted to create or sort of earn money. So it was like an investment strategy, like someone would invest in stocks and shares, they would invest and then receive a return. So when we learned it that way, and we were like, oh, wow. So if somebody was to lend us 100K or $1 million to invest in and develop it in property, then they would earn a guaranteed income and percentage return of this. It's a win-win for everyone, because we get an asset and they then get great return on their money, which is way more than the banks, because it basically costs money to have your money in the bank. And I was like, this isn't real. So when I learned this information, I was like all in. And I said, even though, you know, we're doing okay in what I was doing, like in our corporate lives, I totally hit my wall of, I can't do this anymore. And I can't be this person that is just working all the time. I barely see my children because they're always at nursery and after school clubs and stuff, they're working. And then Mark was just working ridiculous hours, so I barely saw him. And then the time that we did have, we spent cleaning and doing like bills and like, that's not fun. What's the reason you're doing all this for, right? So I was just like, this is ridiculous. So we started in property in January 2017 and literally put everything we had into it. I sold my dream car, my Range Rover Sport that I worked 10 years to earn. I'd literally worked my bum hole off for that whole time to earn this car, my dream car. Sold it because it was a liability, and I was like, I can use that money to invest in property. We sold all of our liabilities, we remortgaged our house, we like did everything to be an entrepreneur that would be willing to do whatever it takes to get to the next step. And so we started in January 2017. By June 2017, I was already out of my job. I was already out of my full-time corporate job, and we went from 0 to over 4.5 million in investment property within 18 months, just under 18 months. And that was using 0 of our own money. So we used 100% investor finance. That's gone, but it's okay because I'm explaining my story so I can keep the live going. It's okay. So basically, like I'm saying, I went from January 2017, and within the first 18 months, I went from nothing to over £4.5 million worth of investment property using none of my own money. So I used completely investor finance for all of these deals. So if you are in a position where you want to get into property and you're like, I have no money, that's fine, because there are people that have money but don't know what to do with it or aren't educated enough and just don't have the time. So they can go, it's all right, Kudrat, hold the fort for you, it's okay. You're back now, you're back. But yeah, so I literally used this investor finance, blasted it out there, and raised all this money so that I could invest then in 4.5 million of assets. And I know, listen, maybe, because I think about this sometimes when we go to London and we do our events, the real life events in London, they might be like, 4.5 million, is that like one property? Do you know what I mean? Because it's London, right? But this is up north. This is up north. So if we do it in London, you imagine like, you know, what we could do down there. It's just we choose that that's our area. But in the real life tribe, we have people that do it all over the country and beyond. So like it can work in any area. And now, so since January 2017, we have a portfolio of over 8 million, and we've delivered on over 16 million in projects. Because obviously we do a lot of buying, renovating and selling and things like that too. So it's been an absolutely astronomical journey, and I wouldn't change it for the world. There's been times where I just wanted to run away.
I can relate.
Yeah, like where it's like everything is going wrong all at the same time. But, you know, because of the personal development aspect of what we do, that's what kept me in the game, and that's where the solutions were found. So that's me. And I have 3 children. I have 3, not 6. I almost did 6.
I have 3 too, so we can relate to that. I have 3
yeah.
girls, so that's awesome. So Trisha, I would like to find out though, say you're able to help investors, how easy is it to actually relate to these investors in terms of what you do? Because I certainly, when I started out, I think I was kind of shy and taken aback in terms of talking to investors about how to invest in property. But was that the same for you? Because I you know, sometimes still shy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I started at the beginning, I had no experience technically other than the education that I had found. So of course it was really scary because I was claiming all of this data and bringing across this environment of excitement and like, yeah, I'm going to do this. But investors are like, no, what's the facts and all of that. So I very quickly learned that it wasn't just an excitable bubble of energy. It was about what's the facts, what's the figures, how does it present to an investor? And ultimately, the one thing that investors need to realize or know is that their money is safe. That is all they want to know. So if they're going to invest in you, they'll be asking themselves, 1, is this somebody that I can work with? And 2, is this something where my money is going to be safe and I'm going to exceed my current capital? Like, is this money going to come back to me with a great return? And is this somebody that I could see myself working with? So I trust this person. That's what it's all about. It's not really about the deal. Genuinely, it's not. Because at the time, I thought it was all about the deal and it's got to stack up like this and all this. It's not about that. It's about you as an individual. You're not selling the deals, you're selling yourself. So it's like if they invest in you as a person and they say, okay, you know, I've got 100, 200, 300 plus thousands that I want to invest for X amount of return, you already know that you're giving them like times 20 what they're getting in the bank. So you already know that they're getting an exceptional deal, but it's how much they believe in you. Because the deal could stack up, but what about if they don't have the experience in property? So then they look at the deal and they're like, yeah, but what does that mean? And how does that work? And oh, what about this process? And what about that process? And a lot of the things that we do now in the investors that we work with is about, you know, I want somebody that is just going to give me the money, sign the agreement, and we'll see you in a year's time or whatever the agreement is. And because you can imagine the level of deals that we're doing, we don't want somebody going, can you send me this all the time? Because you could never run your business like that. Obviously, we have check-in calls, etc., just to keep them in the loop, and you know, especially if something comes up and it creates a delay, which with COVID has been extremely fun, and and things like that. But the majority of the point with investors is they need to know, can they trust you? That's how much they believe in you, and is their money safe? So if you can convey that, and it's about selling yourself as opposed to the deal. It's about selling your integrity, take that money, whatever the amount might be, and pay them back with their agreed upon return at the time in which you agreed or before. So it's your ability to leverage that effect, because you might have 100 people that have got 100K. If say you need 100K, you might have 100 people that come to you and they're like, I've got 100K, oh, I'm interested. Only 2 out of the 100 might actually be in a position to do something. That's quite a lot of waste of time. So like in the real life training, we go through it in a really synergy process where it's like, get the tire kickers out of the way, because you don't want to spend your time wasting on 98 people when only 2 of them are your actual investors, and you might miss them because you're wasting your time with the other 98. So it's about, finding out what people need and giving it to them. If you find out what your investor wants, ask them, what do you want? How much do you have? Like, these are my key things, my key tips for investments. Okay, awesome. So you're raising money for a deal right now. How much do you have? How much do you have? How quickly can you access the funds? And what percentage return are you looking to achieve on that figure, and for how long? So how much do you have? How quickly can you access? Because they might have 1 million, but they're like, oh, I can't access it for a year. And I'm like, awesome, I'll speak to you in a year, right? Don't waste your time. Definitely. How much do you have? How quickly can you access? And what percentage return would you be willing to look at? Now, in those 3 things, you should very quickly understand and utilize, are they an angel investor for a fixed percentage return over a term period? Or are they a joint venture partner that wants to be more involved in the deals, that wants to have more control and things like that? And then you can separate them into different categories and then decide for them on the deals that you have. And then only on that basis, I would enter then into a more diverse conversation as to what are the next steps. Because the people that have got it now, this money, this percentage, and it all aligns with what I need. Finding out what people want, the investor, and what I want, because I know what I want, and then we give it to them, and that's what makes partnership.
Fantastic. I can relate to that. Thank you so much on that.
You're welcome.
You know what? You're just coming out of COVID now, fingers crossed. But how did you handle that situation? Because I know, you know, a lot of people handled it different ways. How did you adjust to COVID? You know, how did that work for you and your team?
Yeah, so COVID for us, what I've said over the last few weeks has been quite hilarious, is our business has gone from 1 million miles an hour to 1 billion. It's genuinely, like, for most people, they were out of work for a bit, and they were like, I'm furloughed, and I'm doing this and doing this. And I was like, thank you. I would enjoy that a little bit. Ours has just been times a billion, because everything we do, luckily in real life, is online. So we have been able to maintain the audience, maintain the share, and realistically, we have just adjusted the process. But in regards to like the property business, there's been some challenges in regards to delays on the build and things like that, because the builders have maybe not been able to access materials as quickly as we'd like. There was a project I was doing with you, you know, where deliveries, they just couldn't deliver the item. And I was like, ah! And it was like, we're waiting for chairs. We were waiting for chairs at one point. And then what happened was hilarious, because I had another client that had a job sort of finishing quite similarly. Their chairs had arrived. And because I was like, you know what, could have been waiting so long, I'm just going to steal those chairs, put them in there and cancel the other order, because they just did not arrive. But, you know, you do what this is the reason that I do whatever it takes, right? But, you know, it's things like that, like items, materials, being able to get things delivered on time has been a challenge. Like we had one job where plaster, so we had the total rip out was completed, all the first fix plumbing and electrics and everything. So the next stage was to board and plaster, and there was no plaster because the mills were all closed. So we were just like, what do we do now? And then what had happened was we got some plaster. To listen to this, this was just one of our 14 jobs that we have on right now. Was that we had plaster, and then someone broke in to the site and stole all of the plaster. Now, what I find hilarious most of all, is that they broke in, they stole the plaster and plasterboard, but there was over about £2,500 worth of copper piping and loads of plumbing and loads of tools, and they stole none of that. And then I realized how, because I was like, why wouldn't they steal all the copper piping? Like, everyone steals copper piping. And they were like, and then Facebook went crazy for like 2-3 weeks, £50 a bag for plaster. And I was like, oh, that's why then. That's why they broke in, because they obviously seen in all these massive bags of plastic we got lined up. And I was just like, and I was like, I'm so sorry to the builders, because they were just like, well, they're saying sorry to me, but I'm like, well, I'm sorry, because I didn't realize that this is such a hot topic right now. And they were like, we're just gonna have to wait because we need to get more plaster. Then there was the whole, you can only have so many bags, and anyway, but we fixed that problem. We had for us, luckily, we've been quite lucky during COVID, where most of our tenants have been okay. They've either been key workers, or even if they got furloughed, they were getting enough to cover their rent. And the ones that weren't, we helped and advised them to go to the council to get the adequate benefits that they needed to be able to consistently pay their rent. And then there was the odd couple here and there across, because we've got 7 areas that we've got property in, so there's a lot. But working with them and our managing agent and the councils, we were able to either get them to pay it the same every month, or if they were unable to, they would do a payment plan, because you can't evict them right now during COVID if they can't pay, which I wouldn't want to do anyway for a good tenant. But, you know, I make them show proof and everything. I'm like, if you can't pay your rent and you're blaming COVID, show me that you've had a letter from your boss to say that you're not being paid and stuff like that, you know, because some of them are watching the news and going, right, who can I screw over? And I'm like, great.
Not you.
No, exactly. I'm like, who are you kidding?
I can relate to that. I had a couple of tenants as well, but they said, you know what, Kudrat, we'll just move out. We'll go back home. We can't afford to pay the rent. We'll just go back home instead. I said, you could stay, but they said, no. They'll just go home to their parents. And so they just left. So you can meet good tenants, and, you know, there are some tenants out there that just want to
and the good thing about it is, because we had a few that moved out too, and if they move out, that's great, because you can just clean and reset the room and get somebody else in there, which honestly right now there's more tenants than that, because everyone's like, oh, demand, or, you know, oh, what's the word, and it infuriates me, saturation of this, that and the other. And I'm like, are you joking? There's more tenants now than there are rooms. It's ridiculous, especially now, because they all need to sit.
Yeah.
They all need to stay home. So we're like, come on, it's fine. They want a better home because the one they've been staying in, they're like, no, I've had enough. And we're like, no problem, come to us.
But yeah, Trisha, about your key strategy, I know you do a lot of strategies, but what you're known to as a queen of HMO and commercial mortgages at the back end, could you just explain to some people that don't really understand what it is and, you know, what it's all about? Can you share with us, please?
Absolutely. So, you know, with HMOs, the houses of multiple occupation, and for those of you that are first time watchers and don't really know what HMO is, you're basically buying a property. Say, for example, it's a 3-bedroom residential house that you just live in with your parents. Somebody else then buys that property and turns it into 6 bedrooms, all with their own individual en suites, perhaps, but they make them self-contained units. And instead of renting it as a whole property for like £500-600 a month, it gets rented for £2,500 to £3,000 per month. That sounds better, right? Yeah. So that's the kind of jazz that we're talking about with HMO. And what I look at, so I work quite powerfully with the banks, the valuers, and there's some particularly valuers out there. So you need to know who to avoid and who to work with. But remember that the valuer's point is always, you know, what can I prove? Because they need to be able to evidence why they have valued something at a certain amount. So they always need to be able to evidence that. And as long as you can do that, then you're on to a winner. Commercial valuations are not difficult if done correctly. So if you get yourself the appropriate training and work through the manuals, and you know Kudarat, so I remember the first call I had with Kudarat. So we had a first call and you made like 100 grand in one call, was that right? Just because of your valuation. I remember it was like, I said to her, she said, oh, so I've got my valuation going through on this property. And I was like, oh, yes, because I have some around the corner. And she was like, oh, yes, I'm just about to go in for it. And I was like, awesome. And what are you going in for? And she's like, oh, 200 and something. And I went, what? And she was like, yeah, because that's good. It's all my money out. And, and I went, no. Now, the thing is, 2 reasons. One, I wanted to help Kudarat because I wanted her to make more money and to have more leverage if she chose it, because she could get it valued at the amount that I then suggested and say, actually, I only want to take 60% of the 75% value. You chose based on your strategy. But 2, if she was accepting those kind of valuations in my area, it makes my valuations go down. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, no. So immediately we reconfigured it all, and literally it was like 100 or so K in one call, right? Yeah. So it's the mindset of knowing what your asset is worth, because the thing is, you could be open to the elements and say, okay, I've got this great asset that I've created. What do you think it's worth? Yeah. Don't do that. Don't be open to other people's suggestion, because you need to be the master of your own, because it's a business. You're doing property, it's a business, especially if you're a HMO, because HMOs require a lot more regulations to be a fit and proper person to manage these and to be licensable. And don't get caught up in all the other stuff that you need to be part of to be a HMO landlord, because that's very simple, like real life office training, and you can work all that out. It's about just being an astute business person to know what is the property that I'm buying now, what's it going to be worth, because based on what I'm spending on it, what's the rental income, etc. Knowing what it is, and then it's all about suggestology with your valuer. So there's a whole process I go through. And have you been to Property Wealth Turbo yet, Kudarat? I think she's frozen, but I don't think she's been to Property Wealth Turbo yet. But I do a whole day on HMOs, commercial valuations, Article 4 area HMOs, lots of things like that. Hey, darling. You're back.
Thank you. So thanks very much for that. Now, if people that are listening to you don't know about the real life, could you share with us what's the real life all about? I know what it's about, and it's an awesome tribe. So Trisha, could you just share with us what's the real life all about, please?
The real life is a amazing business that myself and Mark created. So it's the real life group. A lot of people know it as the Real Life Tribe, but if you haven't heard of it, it's Real Life. And Real Life is a series of trainings in personal and business development. And those trainings cover property, personal development, business development, so many different aspects. And there's lots of different trainings that cover an array of areas. The thing is with ours, it's very unique because every single person in the Real Life Tribe has results, which I love to say, because I know, and I've been a part of other training organizations where there are a lot of people that are still chasing around their tail and they still know nowhere different to where they were 2 years ago, which is really sad. Because when I see that somebody invests their money and invest their time into working with an organization, then I believe it is my absolute, responsibility to ensure that they get their results and they get their money back, in 10,000%, 10,000% more than what they invested in the first place. But at the same time, working with a coach, which we offer coaching, mentoring, training, experiential things that you'll never experience. I mean, you've been so much trained, so it's very experiential. You'll experience things that you've never experienced before that will take you so far out your comfort zone, but it will rebuild you as a person and rebrand you to make you as successful as Kudrat is. Kudrat's doing so amazing. She is literally dominating in the female sector. And, I remember when we first had our call and you started to work with me and Mark, and you were like, yeah, I'm not sure and all that. And I was like, come on. It was just brilliant to see your whole journey just totally transformed to the next level. It's amazing. So Real Life is for people that are ready, that want financial freedom in their life. They want physical freedom. They want spiritual freedom. They want emotional freedom, and they want mental freedom in their life. So anybody that wants any of those things, so physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, which is a huge thing, and emotional, which is extra. See, I've said emotional twice because I mean it so much, because emotional, especially, what I've been through recently, I've experienced it twice. Yeah. Any of you that want any of those things, hashtag Real Life Success or hashtag Real Life and get yourself to one of the next events. So we have got an event coming up, which is our 2-day Real Life Property Wealth event, which we've postponed the event, physical event, just because of COVID situation. It was due to be held in Leicester, which is now in lockdown. So we are doing an online event instead, so that people don't miss out and they can still be a part of the training, which is a shame it's not in person, but we're going to do whatever it takes. And as you know, Kudrat, we go above and beyond to make sure that any training we deliver is absolutely next level. So it's going to be called Real Life Property Secrets, and it's going to be over 2 days on the 17th and 18th of July, 10 till 4. So I can post a link in here afterwards, and obviously anybody that's interested, it's a free event. So just come along, and it's online. You can sit with your beer or your coffee or whatever it is that pleases you, but every day and day out, and we can just have fun together. Yeah, or water. See, I'm doing that too. But seriously, get yourself along to the event because it's going to be absolutely amazing. We have some great things going on. Lots of people transforming, taking themselves to the next level, pure financial freedom, living their best life as I am right now. You're still on there, darling. I don't know if, yeah. You can, yeah.
What of you? I'm still here.
Okay, good.
Hear me?
Yes,
I
can
don't
hear
know
you.
Yeah. I love that view, and obviously that shows the hard work and the lifestyle and the life you want to live. I'm absolutely adoring that. I think I should just come over for a break. But yeah, we've got a few questions, Trisha, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I'm going to ask you questions from those watching. And one of the questions is, how do you differentiate within a commercial valuation and a bricks to mortar valuation? Bricks and mortar.
Yeah, so the difference with a bricks and mortar valuation is, so bricks and mortar is based on it's like a residential valuation of what the family house is going to be sold for. So this is just a house that you're going to sell on to like anybody in a family or whatever. A commercial valuation is based on an income generating asset. Yeah. So a 3-bedroom house, for example, that can just be sold to anybody is going to be worth 200,000. But that same house on the same street that has been converted to 6-bedroom HMO, all en suite, that is netting, 2,500-3,000 per month in income, will then be worth 350,000. So it's quite a jump, right? It's quite a jump from 200 to 350. But remember, this is a business income generating asset now. So it's not valued as a home anymore. It's valued as a business income generating asset. So that's the difference.
Wow, it's frozen again. Can you hear me?
It's okay, I'm back. Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you still hear me, Trish?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Great, awesome. So a few people actually that own about Article 4. I invest in the Article 4 area, and so do you. I've got 3 questions here saying, how do you invest in Article 4? What are the things you look for? Where I invest there, I love Article 4 areas. So please share some light on Article 4, please.
Yeah, I love Article 4 too. I think like it is I'm one of those people that just loves the challenge, quite frankly. And Article 4 is a challenge because obviously it's not easy. You can't just buy it and do whatever you want. You have to go through a process in either before you buy it, or you might buy it. You might be a risk taker and buy it and hope that the process of planning gets approved. So it's not a no. I think a lot of the advertisement out there is to not go to Article 4 areas, is to avoid them altogether in a lot of trainings and stuff that I've been to, which is actually a shame, because you've got to think when the Article 4, and just to clarify for the people that are watching that don't know what an Article 4 or what we're even talking about, an Article 4 area is simply an area that where you could usually, in a non-Article 4 area, you could buy a house and turn it into an up to 6-person HMO without any planning permission. But if in an Article 4 area, you want to buy a house and turn it into a HMO for 3 or more unrelated individuals, you must obtain planning permission for change of use. So just so we're clear on everybody understanding what we're talking about when we say Article 4, just for anybody that's first time watching. So now you know what Article 4 is. Me and Kudarat find it like a game. We're almost rolling the roulette wheel, just going, yeah, this is fun.
Yes,
let's do Article 4. Yeah, because listen, I'll be honest, in the last 3 years, we've only had 1 property rejected in the ones that I've dealt with in Article 4s, because you've got to know where to look. And like I say, it's a shame really that people avoid them, because yes, it is harder work. You've got to be willing to lose something, essentially, because you're going to have to pay your planning, application fees, architect fees, whatever it is, to submit, potentially if that is declined. But then if you do it the real life way, you should have a second exit anyway, so then you're okay, right? So you should be fine either way. But if you're not, and that is your first exit, which a lot of mine in that area, that's my first exit, and I'm just like, I'm going to keep going until I get those through. You've got to work the relationships. You've got to have a great planning agent, an architect in the area. Well, they don't necessarily need to be in the area, but they need to have great experience of working with those types of areas like Article 4, because it's about their communication with the council, going back and forth, the kind of drawings, doing the amendments where necessary, if certain committee members, whatever, right? And having a great relationship yourself with the council. I had one that was like absolute refusal, not going through whatsoever, all this, that, and the other. And I was like, what? And what we found was that they told us there was the environmental agency was the they put a thing in, an objection, and we were like, well, okay, I appreciate your rejection and everything, but what can we do to read it? So she was like, well, you can't speak to the environmental agency. They don't have a number.
No,
I found a number, right?
definitely.
It took me all day, I'll be honest. But I rang every number I could until I got through to the person. Then I found the person, Simon Smeaton, right? His name was. And I was like, hi, Simon. So you commented on my application, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, look, I appreciate where you're coming from. It's a flood zone 3B,
Yeah.
but I'm going to do whatever it takes because I'm an outstanding landlord, da, 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 da. What is it I need to do for you to remove your objection? Because you're the only reason I'm not going to get planning right now. And he said, well, if you were to put flood resilient measures in up to 600 millimeters on the ground floor, you'd be fine.
There you go.
I was like, wait a minute.
Is
So
that
if
it?
I do that, you'll remove your objection. And he went, yeah. I said, can you send an email right now to state that fact? Because literally I was like 5 days from the date that they were supposed to give me the approval.
Yeah.
I said, can you do an email right now to state what you've just said to me? And I'm going to go away, speak to my builders, send an email, make sure that, because I'll do it. It's fine. We got the approval. We'd already had an email saying it was complete and utter decline.
Yeah.
Because of a very simple thing that could have been fixed. But most people wouldn't go to those lengths. So I'm not saying that, but do whatever it takes. In an Article 4 area, you just need to be aware. So like I say, have a great planning agent, great architect, and work with the planning officers at the council. Understand your area. You're not very well going to get a planning application through in an area that is already 50% HMO on that street. You're not going to get it through. So go to trainings, go to seminars, work with people, coaches that understand your areas and how to find out that information, because otherwise you're in a trapped situation because you just like, oh, it's Article 4. Yeah, I want to do it, but I'm a bit like, you can't be like that. You've got to be all in.
Yeah. And you've got to be able to do your research, your time.
Yeah.
I think what a lot of people shy away from is actually doing the work. And sometimes it could be time consuming, because I've done a couple whereby they refused initially and I got them through an appeal. And that meant it took longer and it took more time and money. I think a lot of investors just shy away from it. But at the back end, once they get the application through, the property is worth much more. So I think we should go for Article 4 if we can. And again, learning the right way through real life is a way of doing that.
Absolutely. And I think like the thing is with Article 4, it's just such a shame, because when they actually put in Article 4, maybe it was intensified at that point, but a lot of things have changed since then. Because like even in one of our areas that we both invested in, I was like, you put that Article 4 in place in like 2012. I mean, the economy has completely changed since then. And they're like, yeah, we need housing now. And I'm like, so make more houses into HMOs, because you're creating multiple living and you're creating so many more units. And they're like, yeah, we're open to it as long as it's not the student golden triangle. And I was like, awesome. So
yeah, definitely. So
and now with Boris's new announcement over property, that is amazing. Yeah, I'm so pleased. Yeah, but I'm interested in how far that will cross over into the existing plots and what we can do to utilize and expand on those assets at the same time. Because I know he's saying this about building and adding value, but surely it could be the same aspect when you're looking at renovating a property and creating more. Yeah. Because he did mention that. So what's the difference between, creating 6 units out of one to, building? So I'm quite interested as to how this might impact as investors. I'm going to watch this closely.
We're going to watch the space on that. But we're going to keep on with the HMOs. But outside HMOs, is there anything of interest in terms of property that you do? Because do you do commercial?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do, like, we're buying plots of land and doing new build developments, which a lot of the time we sell them because the uplift is so great. We have a certain business that we do a lot of plots and then developments and sell. We also do like buy to let, but in multiple units. So like my favorite kind of, because I don't really like buy to let because they make me nervous in the respect that if it's void, that's it, you're at cost every single month. So like if I'm going to do a buy to let, I want like a unit, like, so it's like HMO again, right? But it's like you've got multiple units of buy to let in one unit, so then you're getting pay per unit. So at least if you've got X amount that's void, it still covers it. So essentially it's a HMO formula, but they are buy to lets in regards to their own self-contained units. Service accommodation, great strategy. Rent to rent, we've got an amazing rent to rent training, or sort of Monday night live that's coming on Monday, which is how to make 10K in a month in out of a rent to rent strategy. Amazing live that's coming up. So get on at Real Life Group for that, because that is going to be amazing. We've got 2 amazing tribe members that have literally gone out there and invested in themselves and gone forth with the training and built a 10K a month rent to rent portfolio. So they are doing amazing stuff. And literally they're coming on to share their wins and learnings with you guys, so you can go out there and do your same. Multiple strategies. And I love commercial to residential conversions, because if a unit is not working, like a pub or even shops or something like that, for example, then it's good to actually interchange that environment to then create a universal like living situation that is going to create more for people. So that's something that I love, and I think that is creating more, because people are concerned all the time in properties, like, oh, I don't have enough, or oh, should we have more of this, or should we have more of this, or there's too much, there's saturation and all this. There is not enough housing. There is not enough housing across the UK for people. That is it. Otherwise, if there was, there would be no homelessness, right? And then if it's not homelessness, work with charities then, in that case. Yeah. I'm just going to mute during my noisier time.
Which is very true. I've got another question, Trisha, about how you calculate your commercial valuation. Some people are saying they calculate it at different ways in terms of the percentage and how it's worked. So they said, how do you calculate your commercial valuation? How do you go about it?
Yeah, so for us, it's a very different situation because depending on your area, so the main thing that you need to understand is to like getting somebody to get your due diligence right. So like calling your valuers, so ringing around different either RICS valuers, so surveyors, commercial surveyors in the area, and saying, how do you value in this area? And saying, look, I've got a property that I'm looking to purchase. Or if you've already purchased, you say, I've got this property, it's going to be this, this, and this. How would you normally value something like this? Just give me a guide so that I can either make sure that I'm making the right offer to buy it, so I'm not paying too much, or that, I'm on the right lines for my refinance. So there's that for definite is a circumstance that we do. Also ringing other estate agents in the area that are known for selling HMOs. Now you might need to ring around a few, but a good trick is to ring the lettings department and say, who sells HMOs in the area? And they'll generally go, this person, this person, this person, right? And ring them and say, hey, can you get me a valuation? Who would normally value them? Also, generally, what we found universally at the moment is that across our areas, it's normally about 50,000 per room for a double ensuite, and about anywhere between 55 and 60,000 for a kitchenette room. So if you work on that as a worst case scenario, or there's another way, so there's either 50K per room or 55 to 60K per room for a kitchenette studio kind of bedsit style, or you can do your annual rent times by 10 minus 25%. But that is on the lower end. And in an Article 4, you're getting anywhere, I get a minimum 65K for a double ensuite room per room, a minimum. Like it's a minimum. We've literally had one. We had an 8-bedroom valued recently for 530,000 in an article. Brilliant. So basically 64k a room.
Very good. That's good. I love that. I love a bit of that.
I love a bit of España. Can you hear all the culture in the air now?
I really feel like you're so lucky going there. So how was your flight over there? What was it like? What happened?
It was good, you know. We had our face masks on and I've literally been a face mask all day. And I was like, as soon as I got here, I was like, if I have to put that fucking face mask down again, I'm going to cry. Because I thought I was going to have a tan line that's going to be ridiculous, for one. And I was like, I just want some space. And like, we're so far away from people. And as you can see, there is just space everywhere. There's not really many people here, although there kind of is now. There's a lot of people turning up now. And everyone's got face masks on. And it just looks a bit bad. I understand and I appreciate where they're coming from. And I have them. But it says specifically the face mask is only required if you can't maintain the 1.5 meter distance, because it's now 1.5 apparently here. And I said, well, okay, then great. So I don't need to bring my mask out because I'm clearly I'm not too close to people, and the people that I do go close to have got a mask on, so I'm fine. So yeah, it was a good flight. A bit weird, a bit eerie because it was a bit quieter than usual. Spaced out, yeah, bit spaced out. Yeah, the plane was like half full and people were kind of oxed across the sections. But it's good that they're still doing, you know, they're moving forward. They are not allowing it to complete, because that's the thing. I think this whole situation, I mean, I've got lots of opinions, Mark's got lots of opinions, are doing something to create something in the economy. But what you believe or disbelieve is completely up to you.
Oh, Trisha, thank you so much for spending time with us, especially while you're on holiday.
You're welcome.
What I would do is I would put in the link below about your event. Absolutely. And the real life meeting on Monday evening at 7, you said?
Absolutely.
There, and if anyone has any more questions, they can ask me or I can share it on. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. You have a lovely time. And I forgot, you do mentoring, don't you? I've just got a question do you do mentoring?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So
literally, if anybody wants to talk about coaching or mentoring or training, just message me directly, Trisha. Obviously, you've got me on here, Trisha Pegg. We can arrange a call and discuss how you move forward, next steps, and also make sure that you mention that you are a KMO follower, because Kudirat has basically done this interview and introduced you, so therefore she should be rewarded for changing your life.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Trisha. I love you. You have a wonderful holiday.
I will.
See you soon. Thank you so
much. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. We're going to end now. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.